The following is a Podcast One Minnesota production.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, you betcha, yeah.
If it's made in Minnesota, who's making it and how?
Yeah, you got that right.
It's the Makers of Minnesota, focusing on the products and services uniquely made in Minnesota, and conversations with the makers, entrepreneurs, and innovators in Minnesota about how they conceived of their products and how they brought them to market. With Stephanie Hansen, it's the Makers of Minnesota.
Hello, it's Stephanie Hansen, and you're listening to The Makers of Minnesota. We are on episode 35. Thank you very much for listening. We really appreciate the support. Each week, you can find us at Podcast One. You can find us on My Talk 1071 on their website where the podcasts are listed. And you can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter at Makers of MN. And if you have ideas of makers that we should be speaking to, please let us know. We love the opportunity to hear people's stories that are doing cool things in the state of Minnesota. And Andrew Muntz, you are here doing cool stuff. Muntz Angling is the name of your company, and you created a term, Andrew, that I'd never heard before. Do you know which one it is?
I do not.
I'm going to have you pull the microphone just close to your mouth so that we can make sure that we hear you really, really close. You can pull it. There you go. I want to just make sure that we pick you up. So when I was at your website, you had a term that I'd never heard of called anglineering.
Yes.
You're an anglineer.
I guess that would be correct.
Tell me about what it is that you're doing. I can explain it, but you tell me what's in the box in front of you.
Well, simply put, it would be the combination of angling and engineering. So what I'm trying to do is put two concepts together to improve the way that your everyday fishing lures will function.
So you're making homemade lures, and I have to say our friends at Bolton Bees were the ones that referred me to you. And you brought a box here. Can you show me like a lure? I went on your website. It looks like you do lures for bass, big mouth, smallmouth, northern pike, and you're kind of the musky guy.
Yep. Quite a bit of what I've been doing lately is muskie related, yes.
So will you show me, you brought a box in here. I want to see what a muskie lure looks like, because aren't muskie just huge fish?
They can be. That not every muskie is big. Of course, they all start small, and they're just a little egg, but they can be as long as 60 inches.
Yeah.
And there's guys out there who are really big into looking for these trophy fish all over the state. Wisconsin, Canada. A lot of other states have great muskie populations too, so it's a sport that's really gaining a lot of popularity.
So show me one of your muskie lures, because
Sure.
I can't imagine to get a fish that would be that big. Do you need to have like an oversized lure?
Well, this would probably be the one. This is what I call a double 10 double tail, and it's about 15 inches long. So you need a pretty big fish to eat it.
And so show me where the fish would bite it. Would they bite it? It's got beautiful feathers. It looks almost like a feather duster, a mini feather duster.
Definitely does.
And the hook is hidden in there.
Yeah, basically the soft materials, it'd be the hair, the feathers, marabou. They all conceal the basic backbone of the construction that it's made out of. So inside you've got hooks. Essentially, you're gonna hook it up here at the eyelet, and you're gonna retrieve it so it goes this direction, and
So
they're
when
gonna
it's
typically
going-
bite it from the back.
When it's going through the water, because it looks beautiful. It's like this mass of pretty colored flowers, like, again, a feather duster. When it's going through the water, what does the muskie think that is? Are you trying to make it look like something?
Yeah, sometimes. This is a perch pattern. Other patterns that I make, they really involve a lot of color. So it's either a pattern of something that they might eat, or it's a color that gets their attention.
Okay, so I always thought that when you were making a fly or tying a fly that you were trying to make it look like something they would eat, but colors are also important?
They are. What they say is that fish see ultraviolet light, so they don't necessarily see the same things that we do. So if you put an intense color like orange or green or purple in the water, they're going to see it as a different spectrum. It will show up intense, but it may not actually look, say, purple to them.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. So is that like the granddaddy of kind of what you make?
Yeah, this is the largest item that I'm making. What this is it's a snagless bucktail. That's kind of the other popular thing about these, and I do make 6 sizes of these. But essentially, what they offer is they have these weed guards that just pop out.
Yep.
So it's something that's internal to the construction in order to get them this way.
And so a snagless lure would mean if you were trolling, you would be
Mm-hmm.
catching less weeds and whatever's on the bottom of the lake floor.
Ideally, less weeds, more fish.
Yeah. So how did you, okay, so the lure that you're holding, about how much does something like that cost?
These are pretty much my high end model. As far as my standard stuff goes, these are $55 lure.
Yep. And would you be able to use it more than once if you didn't catch a fish with it?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. These are very durable, and they're made tough.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you have a whole box of lures there. So tell me about, you can put it back, but thank you for showing it to me. It looks really cool. So how did you get into this? Were you just a kid and liked fishing? And
Yeah. I guess I started with hand-me-down box. Just your basic kids tackle box. That
Yep.
probably your dad gives you a bunch of hooks and bobbers and sinkers, and you start adding stuff up. But what really got me curious was when I got other people's tackle. Like my neighbor passed on when I was young, good friend of mine, and he gave me his tackle box.
Yep.
And so when I started going through there was things in there that I didn't even know what to do with. So I got curious and started playing around with stuff.
And how old were you when you decided, like, hey, I'm going to start a business with this?
That was about 5 years ago, and then I actually did it about 3 years ago.
And is this your primary business?
Yeah.
So you're able to make a full-time living making lures.
Yeah. I do guide some in the summer to help.
Supplement? Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
And what is your primary source of where do you sell these lures? Is it primarily from your website?
Yeah, my website and eBay has really been kind of the focus of most of the sales. And then in Minnesota and Wisconsin, they have these muskie expos in the winter.
Yep.
So I make sure to attend the expos that I can make enough lures for.
Yep.
It's just me making them right now, so I can make as many as I have time for.
Is it because your lures are handmade, it's a craft as much as obviously anything else. So you're limited in that you can only make so many. Like, do you have the math in your mind of when I need to bring on another person to help me, or when to go to is it possible to even go to a machine made situation?
Machine made with these is certainly not something that's going to happen.
Okay.
But definitely, like, if there was an experienced tyer that was willing to learn, that might be on the horizon.
Do you think about that? Like, how do you grow your business? Like, you can provide for your living now, but is it like, okay, that's good enough, or do you want to grow, and do you see like this becoming a larger enterprise?
That's kind of up for debate. The response from lately has just been incredible. I was really actually pretty surprised. So I'm not really sure yet. I really would like to grow the brand.
Yep.
But I want to make sure the quality stays where it is. So you don't want to put something out there that isn't up to the grade that you kind of set the standard for.
It's a really interesting conundrum that makers have a lot of times. Is you have this product and you're very invested in the making of it, and then the product gets successful, and then to take it like from that tipping point of I've made it enough that I can support myself, but do I want this to be more of a business than that? It's something people really struggle with. Do you have like an advisory board, or how do you think you'll be able to make that decision?
I do not have
Your
an
guts?
advisory board. Yeah, I'd just say, definitely probably a gut feeling would probably be the best way to put it, yeah.
When you wake up every day, do you have like, okay, today for 6 hours I need to be making lures, and for 2 hours I need to be doing marketing? Like, how do you manage your time?
It's never the same. Between, listing things online or trying to put a product video together or doing the sponge painting that you see on these. They have 2 or 3 tone paint jobs. I got to do all the components ahead of time before I can build them. You have to order quite a lot of materials to keep up with lures that are the size of feather dusters.
Do you have a shop, or is this stuff like all over your living room?
Classic basement builder.
That's funny.
Yep.
So you're having to manage all of these things. I thought your website was pretty robust and you had a lot of videos. Is that something you've taught yourself, or how much has social media impacted, and just the web, your ability to be in business?
Web presence is good. People are more into it every year.
Yep.
So the more that you have out there, people can see with the product too. I really noticed that whatever you're trying to sell, it really helps to get a good viewpoint for people to really see how it works.
Yep.
Anybody can go into, if these were just available in a store and you'd walk up and you'd look at it, you could see what it looks like. You could see how it kind of works, but you can't actually really see it in action. But a video, that's what's so neat about now. You can put everything right in front of people underwater. I put a GoPro camera right under the water, and you can watch the bait just swim right in front of the lens, and people get a good idea exactly what they're getting before they actually see it in the water.
Are you producing your own videos then?
Yeah.
How did you learn how to do that?
I have a friend who's a videographer I've worked with, and he's given me some nice tips. Otherwise, I figure out quite a few of the things on my own. I have a little bit of a music background, so the audio, all that kind of stuff makes sense to me already.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So you're lucky, because that can really add up for people. Video production is kind of expensive. Obviously, iPhones, you can do it, but it takes a little bit of trial and error. Yeah. Do you do a lot of like SEO and that sort of thing to get fishermen to your website, or how do people find out about you?
The expos, there's kind of some chatter, I guess, that goes around. Otherwise, I'm really just starting to advertise. People might see it on eBay.
Are you advertising on eBay?
Yeah, I list the new product line that I have of the snagless bucktails. They are listed on eBay as well as my website. So people see them, U.S. and Canada mainly, and see them on there.
Do you pick like if you're going to advertise on eBay? Do you pick like, I want fishermen in this area and that make this income? Do they have like that kind of selection, just like they do for Facebook and some of the other sites?
They might. I'm not actually even doing full ads on there. I literally just I'm waiting for people to key in bucktail.
Yep.
Per se. So if they just key it in and they're looking for snagless or weedless bucktail, probably I'm going to show up right away, and then I'm going to have about 120 listings. Yeah,
because are there other people doing what you do, or are you in a fairly unique market?
It's pretty niche right now.
Yeah. That's neat.
Yeah.
When you think about like is making lures and making flies and the fishing industry, I know it's grown a lot. Mm-hmm. You seem to be in this space of kind of the bigger and more difficult, I don't want to say difficult to catch, but fighter fish. Would that be
predatory
accurate?
Fish.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not a fisher person, so I'm looking for the right word. So that's a unique piece of real estate to be in, right?
Yes, it really is. Just providing function to kind of something that's been done for maybe already, I don't know how far her bucktails would go back, but I've seen some vintage stuff in cases, I would think at least 50, 80 years. This is, something with a spinner on a, with soft materials behind it has been around for a long time.
Yep.
But, adding in different features here has kind of, elevated it to a certain point with these.
A lot of lures look like folk art. I mean, they're just so beautiful.
Yeah, they really are. There's spearing decoys and great paint jobs that people do out there. And the cool thing about bait making is you can see what other people do, and you can kind of retool it for what you do. And there's a lot of ideas that are borrowed out there in the fishing community, the fly tying community. A lot of those people have really been, they've been there to kind of teach me, what you can do with certain things. They're actually really skilled. And, often really quiet about it, keep it close to the vest. And it's nice when they share some of their techniques with you.
Did you take a class, or how'd you actually learn how to do it?
I am self-taught, but I was given a fly tying kit probably when I was 12, and it sat for I don't know how long until I really had a need. I wanted to make something, and I started making these trout spinners actually. And
what's a trout spinner?
Well, they're basically a smaller version of these musky bucktails.
Okay.
So, what I did is I wanted to add a different feature to something that wasn't existing on products that you could buy. So I had to tie my own tails to make that feature possible, and that's really what got me interested in tying and kind of moving forward with that. Otherwise, I really didn't have anything to do with it before. But I will also say that my grandfather had a background in doing it, and I did a little bit of tying with him when I was very young, but not near the depth. And I really wish that I would have asked for his fly tying materials.
Yeah. So when you think, you're thinking about this in your mind for a couple of years before you do it.
Mm-hmm.
What made you decide this is I just need to do this now?
Probably when I applied for a patent.
And tell me about that.
It's a long process.
It really is.
Yeah.
Did you have a patent attorney?
Yep. And well, it's still pending.
Okay.
And we're 4 years down the road right now. But what I came up with the trout spinners is I wanted to put a place for anglers to grab behind the bend of the hook. You can see it on this little guy. What it is it's a bead that kind of sits there behind the bend of the hook. And you wouldn't really think that's a really purposeful thing, but if you were to grab this bead and it's tied onto your spinning rod, and you basically just pull back and you basically load tension into the rod.
Yep.
And what you're doing is you're shooting the lure, which is really helpful if you're trying to sling this thing under a dock or a tree, or you have trees behind you and you can't back cast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is essentially a hook design that I've just tied up, but it's very effective for different situational fishing, and you can put it on different spinners like for trout that are small, or anything up to say bass size that you would use a spinning rod for. It really requires an open bail to be able to do this, to use the technique with this hook.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So you are trying to patent the little piece.
Yeah, it's essentially a hook design.
Yep.
There's a couple different ways of doing it, but it would be, similar to flipping if you were bass fishing. It was a technique that became really popular about 20 years or so ago, and this is just a different way of doing it, and you get you can achieve a longer distance.
Yep.
And it's really more point A to point B, just gravity assisted.
Can you, when you started and you decided okay, I'm going to go into this and be more serious about it, did you put money aside? How much money did you invest to start?
Really didn't need a lot to invest to start. I mean, the parts for the trout lures was pretty minimal.
Yep.
And patent maintenance fees, or attorney fees that come up, they just, here and there. I was doing that while I had a full-time job.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So did you benchmark how much to charge for your lures, or how did you know, since this is kind of a unique space?
When you're not manufacturing, I mean, you could call it small manufacturing, I guess, but when you're not able to compete with factories that can produce however many and get prices down where people are used to, that's one thing. But if you're going to provide a quality product, I think people are willing to pay for it. And if you're making something more quality, it might cost a little bit more, but you're going to get a lot more function out of it.
Can you tell me about the time that you saw someone using your lure and they caught a fish for the first time? Do you remember that?
It was probably me. But I did have a client of mine when I was out on a local lake here, and he was throwing one of my lures, and he caught a 50-inch muskie on White Bear Lake locally.
Yep.
So it was nice to see that. He was very excited.
I'm sure.
And I was excited, too, because of the lure he caught it on.
Yeah. Was it the one of the big ones that you showed me originally?
Yeah, it was one of the musky lures. Yeah.
Do you ever go out and not catch fish? Because that's my experience, is just sitting there all day.
Yes.
And is that, when you're a fisher person, does that happen like more than 10% of the time?
Depends on when you decide to fish.
Okay, so.
Yep. If you want to go out in the middle of summer on a hot day and fish for muskies in the lake, you might have a tough time. But you might find them too.
That's usually when I'm fishing. No wonder.
Uh-huh.
Do you have other competitors that are in your same space? You said you're kind of unique.
I don't know if anybody really has a similar design that I would consider a competitor. I think there's a lot of people out there making bucktails. I know that. But there's a lot of different things going on here.
What a great Father's Day gift.
Yeah. My dad has a whole collection of them.
I bet he does. When you think about the summer's obviously your busy season, and then I'm assuming you tie during the fall and the winter.
Yeah.
So do you have enough stock now to get you through if things get really busy, or how do you manage that?
I'm hoping so. I really just got pretty depleted because I had 3 of those muskie expos in about a 6-week period, and I tied for a while to make enough stock, but I was sold out of quite a few of the items after the St. Paul show. It was back-to-back weekends after the Wausau show. Yeah. So that'll make a lot of things disappear, but they are reappearing. So they are.
What's the longest you've ever had to sit and tie flies for one time, one chunk? How long can you do it for?
At the expos, I actually bring my workbench there, and I make custom, just any color that people want, any size, any blade. And I think I did a 13-hour day.
Wow.
I came in early because I had custom orders, and then once the show opened, I tied until it closed.
And, that must be hard. Your fingers must get just sore from all that fine work.
Drink a lot of water, and your hands won't cramp up.
All right, so there you go. We are talking to Andrew Muntz. He owns a business called Muntz Angling. You can find him at muntzangling.com. Any fish secrets you want to share before we close out here?
I don't think that would be fair.
Oh! Do you always fish with lures, or do sometimes you fish with bait too?
I'm mostly a lure fisherman, but ice fishing or maybe early spring for crappies, I'll put on some minnows.
Is there an advantage to lure fishing versus bait fishing?
There can be, but I think there's probably more advantages to bait fishing.
Really? So lure fishing might be a more sophisticated fisher person.
Might be.
Yeah, or someone who appreciates the craft.
There's a lot of different viewpoints on that. I would think some, the fly fishing community they like artificial lures, but they prefer oftentimes single hooks. It's easier on the fish. I have limited amounts of treble hooks that are pretty good for fish. And then sometimes live bait can be problematic for fish, but not always.
Yeah, because they might swallow it or.
Yeah.
Yep.
So everybody kind of has the thing that they like to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's been really interesting talking to you. Your lures look beautiful. Again, they look like, is it terrible to say big feather dusters, but they're very pretty.
Thanks. Yeah. No, I've made little feather dusters for my daughter. So yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, she likes them too.
All right. It's Andrew Muntz. It's Muntz Angling. You'll be able to find him online at muntzangling.com. We will have a link to his website in our Facebook page, and when we post, also you can find it at the Podcast One website. Thank you for being with us today. You're listening to the Makers of Minnesota, and again, if you have any suggestions for people that you think are interesting that we should talk to, just give us a ring on Facebook, on Twitter, or on Instagram, and we will follow up on your leads. Thanks.